You're watching video 102, and today we're on set at an Indialantic mansion with 6 bedrooms, way too many bathrooms, 8,900 square feet of living space, listed at a bargain of $2.4 million. We're gonna be talking all about seller paid concessions, so if you're ready, let's go on and check out the house. Wow. Seller concessions. How common are they? How much can be negotiated into the contract? When are they paid? Now, these are some of the questions I get all the time from both buyers and sellers. So the purpose of today's video is to address all 3 of those and also show you what $2.4 million can get you in Brevard. The first thing I want to address is how common are seller paid concessions? Well, when looking at all the transactions that we've had in the last 6 months in Brevard County, there's been just over 7,200, and 2,000 of them have included some sort of concession from the seller to the buyer, which makes up 28%. Now, I dug into that a little bit deeper to really try and find out what types of buyers are actually getting closing costs more common than others. So I looked at all purchases that were made with an FHA buyer, which represents the highest amount of buyers that are asking for closing costs, which represents 55%. Now, second was VA coming in at 45%, and then conventional coming in at 26%. Now, there were some cash buyers that asked for concessions, and they made up about 8% of the transactions that occurred within the last 6 months, so it's not as common. Now, the amount, that is a variable between 2 and 5% of the purchase price. Here's the master. Now, of course, stunning, something you would expect when you're paying over $2 million. This closet is literally bigger than most bedrooms in Florida. The next we're going to talk about is the max contribution that a seller can give to a buyer for concessions. Now, if you're using a VA or FHA loan, that max amount that a seller can provide is 6% of the purchase price. When you're dealing with a conventional loan, it's 3% unless the buyer is putting down 10% or more, and at that point, the buyer can now receive 6% of the purchase price from the seller. Not too shabby, huh? Let me show you upstairs. Okay, and so to address the final question is how and when are these credits applied? So there's 2 strategies this can be done. So one is with an offer up front where the buyer would ask for 2% of the purchase price towards the buyer's prepaid and closing cost items. And the other way is after an inspection period, let's say there are a couple things wrong with the property that the buyer doesn't feel comfortable with. AC's bad, there could be some cracked flooring, whatever it may be, the buyer can ask the seller for a credit of, let's call it $2,000 to fix said repairs. Now, whatever method that the buyer chooses to do, it doesn't really matter because the seller does not pay for these until closing at the closing table. I've had sellers ask me, Shane, do we need to write a check for the buyer for this credit? And the answer is no, all that is done at closing. See that view? Now that doesn't suck. Let me show you one other view I really like. What an incredible, incredible view. This property is super rare, and it's one of those unique builds that reminds me a lot of when I lived up north in Virginia. Just the warmth of the brick, the rounded architecture, everything about it is just amazing and really unique to Florida. Not to mention that land up there and then that river back there. Stunning. So thanks for joining me on today's tour. I hope I addressed some of the questions you guys have about seller paid closing costs. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section of the video. And other than that, I'll see you next Monday. It's kind of like a labyrinth in here, just zooming around. Getting all these lights, but there's so much space. That, huge fan of the colonial style. Probably one of my favorite features about the whole property is just the back right here. Love it. Just took my breath away. And I almost forgot. If you want to check out this property in a little bit more detail, I've included a link to the property. Click it, check it, you can 3D tour it. That's all I got.